We will call this special town meeting December 8th, 2020 for the annual levy and budget meeting. I'm Pat Christofferson. I'm the clerk treasurer for White Bear Township. Giving the presentation this evening will be Tom Kelly, the township's finance officer. We have four guests on the phone joining us this evening. So as my initial and mostly only responsibility in this evening's meeting will be calling for a volunteer to be our moderator. Paul Kelleher has nominated or has volunteered. Can I get someone to nominate him as such?
I'll nominate Paul.
And a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Paul, you may take the podium. I would ask that everybody understand and respect the fact that Paul is not a staff member of the township, nor is he an elected official. He has volunteered to do this out of the goodness of his heart. Most questions you can direct at Mr. Kelly, myself, or Mr. Lemons. Take it away, Paul.
Well, thank you, Pat. I'm Paul Kelly here. I live at 4150 Hill Air. I've been in the township for 35 years. And it's a lot of fun. We live on one of the narrow streets over there. It's 18 feet wide. Well, no, it's 20 because we got new streets in this year. And people are really friendly. You get to know your neighbors. It's a changing neighborhood. People are leaving for one reason or another, but a lot of young families are moving in. So we've got a whole crop of kids. And tonight on the way over, there were 5 deer standing in my yard. So it's crazy. All right. We're going to be following Robert's Rules of Order tonight. We must wear our masks unless we're speaking. I guess I could drop mine, but okay, makes it feel better. And people have phoned in, but you have to be here in person to vote. So the next thing would be that the town clerk will keep the minutes of the meeting. We can have a maximum of 18 people in this room. If more people come, we'll do the resolutions and the voting in shifts, meaning that people would have to leave and then other people come in, but it doesn't look like we're quite at that point. Pat, how many people do we have in the room?
We got 12, 13. Someone else coming in will be at 14.
Okay, we're good.
Looks like 14 coming in.
All right. Approval of special town meeting agenda. Has everybody gotten a copy of the agenda? All right.
And there are no changes or additions.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Are those opposed? And the minutes of the last meeting last year, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a motion to approve and we have a second. Is there any discussion of the minutes? All those in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes. All right, moving right along. I'm going to hand the meeting over to Tom Kelly to do his presentation of the 2021 proposed budget and property tax levy.
Thank you, Paul. If anybody does need a handout, they are over on the table over there. All right. If anybody's been to these meetings in the past, they know I have to start the meeting off with a joke. And I got these from our cable person today, so they're not mine. But why is a cat like a penny? because it has a head on one side and a tail on the other. Well, that is the tradition. They are bad. All right, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to help the residents understand the township's budget and property tax. And then, as residents, you do need to approve the tax levy and then recommend a budget for 2021. Before we get going, though, I would like to recap kind of what's going on in 2020, besides Corona. The 2020 property tax levy was approved by residents at $3,662,778. That was a 7.63% increase over the previous year. And in 2020, we did have a debt levy, which was the first time we had a debt levy in about 5 years. And the debt levy was just over $65,000. Which leaves us with an operating levy of $3,293,500, and then our fiscal disparities, which is revenue sharing on commercial buildings in the township and in the metro area, actually increased by $24,592 to just over $300,000. The general fund budget is $4,488,213. It was a balanced budget, meaning our revenues did equal our expenditures, and it was an increase of 6.7%. And as in the past, and you'll see in this year, public safety, which is police, fire, and code enforcement, continues to be our largest expenditure area. And then, unfortunately, property taxes accounted for just over 80% of our revenues. We did receive our 3 awards from the National GFOA, or the Government Finance Officers. The first award, which is on the far end there, is for our annual audit report, or our comprehensive financial report. It's the 25th year in a row that we've received that award. The award that's closest to me is for our budget document, and we received that for the 19th time this past year. We also received the award for what is called the PAFR, which is that little financial report that you receive in your utility bill in the fall that kind of summarizes our financial report. It's the 5th time that we received that award from the National Government Finance Officers Association, and we're one of only 16 governmental units to receive all 3 awards in the state. So we're in kind of a rare company there. So now, the reason you're here to talk about the 2021 budget, and I thought I'd start with the process that we go through for our budget. We start off in March at the annual meeting on March 10th. At that meeting, residents do approve a preliminary levy, and at that meeting they approved a preliminary levy of $4,647,207. Then we actually start our budget process with department heads and getting numbers from the other organizations that we have to pay out, such as Ramsey County for police services, White Bear Lake for fire services. All that actually gets going in about July and carries through until September, when we have to certify a preliminary levy to Ramsey County, which we did on September 21st. That preliminary levy is, that preliminary levy is the levy that was used in the tax notices that you received probably a few weeks ago. And at that time, we certified a levy of $4,403,879, which is a decrease from what was approved by the residents in March by about $243,000. At the same time, we're working on the budget. We work on our 10-year capital improvement plan, or CIP, and we work on that, and the town board will actually approve that plan on December 21st at their regular town board meeting. The first year of that plan, or 2021, is incorporated into our 2021 budget, and then the stuff that's in 2022 and out to 2030 is there just for placeholders so that we know what kind of improvements, what kind of equipment we've got coming up that's going to need replacing or need infrastructure improvements. As I say, we continue to work on our budget and have workshops with the town board between August and November to get us to this point where we're at the budget meeting to present you a final levy for approval. And tonight we're asking you to approve a levy of $4,248,063, which again is a decrease of $155,816 from what we certified in September, or almost a $400,000 decrease from what was approved back in March. We do have to certify that to Ramsey County by the 31st, and then our fiscal year begins on January 1st. So the proposed 2021 budget, we developed that with the town's mission to provide White Bear Township residents, businesses, and visitors with reliable, equitable, high-quality municipal services while serving as an open, inclusive, and responsible stewards of the public trust. And so that's how we start our budget process, with that mission in mind. I know these charts, some of them are kind of hard to see. On the far side, we have the 2020 breakdown of expenditures, and on this side, the 2021. In total, all funds, the township has a budget of $18,120,508. And the breakdown is very similar to last year. Both years in 2020, 30% of our expenditures were in capital improvements. For 2021, that dropped down to 32%. Our enterprise funds in 2021 will make up 35% of the budget compared to 34% last year, or this year. And the general fund in 2020 was 26% of our total expenditures, and will be 27% in 2021. So everything is very, very similar going by fund. Going by expenditure type, again, everything is very, very similar. Our capital outlay is by far the largest area. In both years, it was 43% in 2021, and it's still 43% in 2021. It was 43% in 2020. Charges for services went from 37% down to 36%, and everything else is pretty much the same as it was the previous year. The 2021 budget, as I said, right now is at $18,120,508 for all funds. It's actually an increase over our 2020 budget of 6.5%. Our personnel services increased just over 5%. It does have one new position for administrative services for public works, code enforcement, and planning. So it's going to help those three areas out with some administrative stuff. And then we have two intern positions, which are both part-time positions, to basically scan in our paper documents so that all of our documents are electronic, which will make it more efficient for looking things up and finding things in the future. The other big area, as I said, is our capital outlay. That increased 5.6%. That is what we do for road improvement projects. The 2021 improvement project is just getting underway. It's the third year of our 10-year pavement management plan. And again, it's to replace the streets before they get too worn, and allows us to do overlays as opposed to complete reconstruction, which is much more costly. So we've got more road improvements planned for 2021. The utility rates that we have for our utility funds, water, sewer, sanitary sewer, and stormwater, they are intended to cover operations at 100% and then 75% of our depreciation. To do that, we've been adjusting the rates the last few years, and we do review our rates annually. Right now, the water and the sanitary sewer fund, the water fund includes just over $1,486,000 in improvements, and the sewer fund only $160,000 of improvements. And then the stormwater system has $545,000 of improvements budgeted. And so the rates, we don't try to pay for those all in one year, so we try to build the rates to cover at least 75% of the depreciation, so we have funds on hand to do those types of improvements. The rates are going to change slightly from 2020, and the main change is in the water rates, where the base rate will go from $21.75 to $27.50 a quarter next year. And then the other big change is in our tiered system, or our volume rates. In the past, Tier 1 was 0 to 20,000, Tier 2 was 20,000 to 32,000, Tier 3 was 32,000 to 44,000, and then Tier 4 was anything over 44,000. That is now changing to Tier 1 will be 0 to 10,000, and Tier 2, 10,000 to 20,000, and then Tier 3, 20,000 to 32, and Tier 4 will be anything over 32,000. And the reason for that change is in the past, in Tier 1 and 2, 90% of our residents used to fall into Tier 1 and 2, and now with the lowering of Tier 1 and 2, it'll only cover 83% of the residents, and the hope is that it'll help encourage water conservation next year and into the future. Our sanitary sewer rates, the base rate is going to stay the same as it was in 2020 at $52 a quarter, and then the volume rate will increase from $5 to $5.75, and then finally the stormwater rate will change from $22.50 to $23 a quarter. And I know that's a little hard to read on that chart. As I said, we've been doing road improvement projects. That has required us to issue debt and actually levy to help pay for that debt. When we do road improvement projects, we do special assess the properties that benefit from the project, but we don't assess 100% of that. And so the township does have to cover part of those costs, and because of the size of those projects the last few years, we've actually issued new debt. So our debt budget has actually increased 33% from 2020. It includes an interest-only payment on the 2020 bond that we issued, and that payment is $89,958. And then in 2019, we issued new debt for the 19th Street Improvement Project, and so we have both a principal and interest payment for that which is $149,475. Right now, because of the projects that are planned in 2021 and 2022, we do plan to issue new debt next year for both of those years, and right now it's projected that that new debt would be at $5 million. The good news is that right now borrowing money is cheap. Right now, as of the end of this year, we'll have just over $7,360,000 in debt outstanding. And as I said, it will require a debt levy of $197,742 for 2021. And if you break that out on a monthly cost on the median value home in the township, our debt would cost that median value home $2.88 a month. And then, as I said, in 2021, we do have a new debt issue that we're planning for, which will fund the 2021 street project and the 2022 street project. That brings us to the general fund, which is the one that mainly makes up your property taxes. It accounts for our day-to-day operations of the township, and right now the budget is proposed at an 8.26% increase. And as I said before, the main revenue source is property taxes, and again, the 2021 budget is a balanced budget, meaning revenues do equal expenditures. Here's a breakdown and a comparison to 2020 to 2021. You can see that, again, they're very similar from year to year. In 2020, Public Works made 27% of our budget. It'll be 29% in 2021. Public Safety was at 38%. It's actually dropping a little bit to 36% of our budget. And then Park and Rec, or Park Maintenance, was 13% of our budget. It's now going to be 14%. And then general government was 22% of our budget, will be down to 21%. And again, it's an increase of about $370,000 from our 2020 budget. As I said, public safety is the largest portion of our budget. Right now, it is at $1,741,560, which is a 2.95% increase, or $49,966. Code enforcement does share the cost of that new position that we talked about earlier. About 10% of that position, or it increased, code enforcement will increase just over 10%, and they're paying for about 35% of that new position. And again, if you break that down on a median value home, that home would be paying $18.11 a month for public safety. Our Public Works budget is increasing 18.71%. They're paying for 15% of that new administrative position. And then their equipment and infrastructure improvements are increasing $81,000 or 5.64%. And again, if you break Public Works down on a monthly cost, it's $17.34. Finally, our general government, which includes our elections, the town board, our administrative staff, planning and development, that is increasing almost $34,000. And again, it includes about $20,500 for current and future equipment purchases. And then the community development area is paying 10% of that new position. General government, if you break it down on a monthly basis, would be $10.71 on that median value home. Finally, we've got our parks. They're increasing almost 10%. The biggest reason for that is park improvements, which include a rehab of a tennis court, some beach improvements to Bel Air Beach, and then some parking lot and trail rehab improvements. Overall, if you break our park maintenance budget down on a per monthly basis, it would be $8.10. The revenues, again, they look very similar from year to year. The bad news here is that in 2020, the largest chunk there, this big blue area, is our property tax. In 2020, that made up 80% of our revenues, and in 2021, it's going to make up 83% of our revenues. As I said, property taxes are our largest revenue source. Right now on operations, they are proposed to increase 12.59%. Part of that will be from fiscal disparities, which is going up to $325,928, which is a 7.25% increase, and that leaves us with a general fund tax levy of $3,724,393. When you talk about your property taxes, everybody gets a little bit involved in it. The Ramsey County assessor determines your market value. The state of Minnesota, the legislature determines property class rates. The class rates are then applied to your market value to establish tax capacity, and then the town establishes your property tax levy. The levy is then divided by the total tax capacity to determine a tax rate, and then the tax rate is multiplied by the tax rate by the tax capacity to get to the amount of taxes owed. The county for 2021, it says 2020, did increase our taxable tax capacity by 5.58%. And you can see the breakdown on this chart, but it's now up to $16,284,365. Showing that in a graph, you can see how our tax capacity has been increasing basically since about 2013. And it continues to grow. In the past, in 2016, 17, and 18, most of that growth was in residential market values, and now we're seeing growth in both the residential values and in the commercial values. So it's kind of good that you can sell your home for more, but at the same time, they're then taxing you on more because your house is valued for more. So the township's property taxes for 2021, we have a operating property tax of $3,724,393. We add our fiscal disparities of $325,928. And that gives us an operating levy of $4,050,321. And then, as I said, we have the debt levy to repay the bonds of $197,742, which gives us a total tax levy at $4,248,063. And again, that's about a 16% increase over the previous year, and a large portion of that is in the debt. And again, in the notices that you would have received, they were using a levy of $4,403,879, which was just over a 20% increase. This chart shows you what our property tax levy has been doing. And as you can see, as we've been doing all these infrastructure projects, our levy has been going up to reflect those bond payments. And then also for us funding some of those improvements and the replacement of equipment and then park improvements. Because our tax capacity has increased, that'll have a play in our tax rate. For 2021, right now it would be 24.085%, and you can see that is higher than last year when it was 21.752, but it is still lower than the 2013 rate of 25.246. So that would mean that in 2013, if your home was valued at the same rate that it is in 2021, you'd actually be paying less in property taxes in 2021 than you were in 2023, or in 2013, I'm sorry. Applying that tax rate and comparing it to the other communities in Ramsey County, we would now be the 5th lowest in tax rate. Little Canada and Vadnais Heights has snuck in a little bit lower than us, and so we have been inching up, and again, a large part of that is because of those infrastructure improvements. As I said, the county assessor has been increasing the market values in the township. For 2021, the median value home did increase 2.93%. It went from 287,000 up to 295,400. So we're the middle of our homes are up almost to $300,000 now. If you apply that to the tax rate, you can see this bar. If people's market value hadn't changed at all from 2020 to 2021, on the low end of the spectrum, home valued at $135,000, they would see a $1 increase in their property taxes, and then the higher valued homes at $300,000, they would actually see a 2% or $2 increase in their township property taxes. As I said, though, the county assessor has been increasing market values in the township. So if you apply that median value increase of 2.9%, that $135,000 home with the increased market value would go from $316 to $363 or $47, which works out to a $3.91 a month increase over the 2020. And then at the high end, the $300,000 home would go from $802 in township taxes to $916, or a $114 increase, or a $9.50 a month increase over the 2020 taxes. So if you want to figure this out against your what yours is going to be, this is how you would calculate your property taxes. You start with your market value, and then you have to do it, figure out how much is going to be excluded. And to do that, you take the market value minus $76,000 times 9% to get your reduced market value. You take that number, take 30,400, subtract out your reduced market value, and that's how much you get to exclude from your property taxes. You then take your market value, subtract out that exclusion, and that's your taxable market value. You take that taxable market value times 1% to get your tax capacity, take the tax capacity, times it by the tax rate, and that equals your property taxes. Simple formula, right? The easy way, if you really want to know, call me. I'll figure it out for you. I do have some examples of that, and you can see on the far end, starting with a home that's valued at $172,413. You subtract that 76, you get the 96,413. Times that by the 9%, you get 8,677. Take the 30,400 minus the 8,677, gets you 21,723. You go back to your beginning market value of 172,413, subtract out the 21,723 to get a taxable market value of 150,691. You times that by 1%, and you get a tax capacity of $1,507. You multiply that times the 24.085%, which is the town's tax rate, which would get you a township property tax of $363. And if you divide that by 12, you get a monthly cost of $30 a month for that property. Doing the same equation on a 351,213, doing that same equation, it goes down and they would end up paying $832,000 or $832, which would work out to $69 a month for their township taxes. Now, the township isn't the only taxing entity that makes up your property tax. Ramsey County, which makes up just over 42.6% of your property tax bill. The school district, 30%, and then the township is about 19.6%, and then there's a bunch of miscellaneous districts that make up 7.8%. So between the county and the school district, they're making up about 72.6% of your total property tax bill. And like I say, the township isn't even 20% of your total tax bill. Showing this as monthly service costs, as I told you before, as we were going through, and comparing it to 2020, you can see that public safety basically increased $1 a month, and this is on the median value home, which in 2020 was $287,000, and in 2021 is $295,400. Public Works went from $14.44 a month to $17.34 a month. And then general government from $10.10 to $10.71. Park and Recreation went from $7.33 to $8.10. And then our debt service went from 97 cents to $2.88. And in total, it went from $49.95 to $57.14, which is a $7.19 a month increase on the median value home. If you compare those monthly costs to some other services, and these are just estimates, you might get high-speed internet TV and a phone bundle for about $140 a month, a wireless phone plan for a family of around $180 a month. Your electric might be around $100 a month, gas $75 a month, a home security system $25 a month, and then township services of $57. And again, that's calculated on the median value home. And for the 57, you're getting police, fire, code enforcement, public works, park maintenance, election, and then other township services. Once our budget document is completed, it will be on our website and our Facebook page, which is listed here. And then, in summary, for 2021, we have a total expenditure budget of just over $18 million, which is a decrease of 6.57%. The general fund is an increase of just over 8% at $4,885,725. And then our property tax levy of $4,248,063, which is a 15.979%. And the monthly cost would be between $30 and $70, or the cost would be $30 to $70, and then the monthly cost would be an increase of $3.89 or $9.53 per month, depending on the value of your home. As I said, the county has increased our tax capacity just over 5.5%. To $16,284,365, and that would give us a 2021 tax rate of 24.085. And with that, for anybody that's still awake from all those numbers, I will answer any questions you may have.
Yep, I'll bring it to wherever you can call.
All right, it's my job as moderator to, number 7, to ask if there is a motion to approve the 2021 property tax levy proposed at $4,248,000. $4,248,000.
Got a question first. Can you state your name and address, sir?
My name is Mike Downing, 2569 South Shore Boulevard. Can we have a discussion before we go into any motion, please?
Actually,
Motion, if I may, you bring the motion first.
Okay, I'll make a motion then.
Opens it for discussion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reduce that $4.2 million to $4.0 million. And I'll go into a discussion of why this budget is substantially too high compared to all the other increases in a year that we are experiencing this pandemic, when people are losing their jobs and okay. I move that that budget be reduced to $4.0 million.
All right, there's a motion to change what is on here from 4.248 to 4.0. Is there a second?
you had asked for 3 times, I believe, correct, Mr. Attorney?
Correct.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? The motion dies for lack of a second.
So I would, if anybody else would like to make the motion on the proposed levy, is that correct, Chad?
That's correct.
And then we can, if we get a second to that, we can open it up for additional discussion, correct?
Correct.
I'll also ask a question though. I mean, if we were to want to change the levy, I mean, it seems like we have to approve the 4.858 before we can have a conversation.
You, 4.2, you would make a motion on that, and a second, we would open it up to discussion.
There still would be room to alter it if need be.
If we ask for that specific motion later on, yes. So,
Alex, I'll give this a shot. What happens is you make a motion, you second it, then you discuss it, and then when it comes to the vote, if the vote denies it or is defeated, for lack of a better word, then you would then need to make a new motion for a new levy. Does that make sense?
That's right, Chad, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Do you want to ask that again?
Certainly. On number 7 on your agenda calls for a motion to approve the 2021 property tax levy proposed at 4.248 million.
I'll make the motion to approve at that rate, because that will open up the discussion track.
I think it's,
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve at 4,248,063.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a second. Now we call for discussion.
discussion, correct.
Mike Downing again, 2569 South Shore Boulevard. When I look at I had no plans on coming here tonight. Our daughter just came down with COVID-19, and her 3 grandchildren came down with it. We are experiencing a pandemic, and we are losing people in our community. We need to reduce our costs increases. I look at the county on this tax bill that I received, and my appraised value went up very significantly, much higher than what you had shown there. The county went up 0.5%. Met Council actually went down. It's probably 0.2 or 0.3%. The school district only increased 1.9%. So when someone needs to correct was I right that it's about 8.5% increase in this? Or is it was actually higher than that, wasn't it? It was 12%.
Correct.
So when all the other taxing authorities on our tax bill are doing a very good job of controlling costs, we're increasing our budget by 12% when the CPI is going up at about 1.9 to 2%, and the PPI is about 2.9 to 3%. I think we need to reduce this levy. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually, you want to take the phone call?
Sure. Folks on the phone, do we have any questions or observations regarding the presentation or the motion that's on the floor? No? Okay. Selena?
Yep.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, hi, my name is Selena Coster. I live at 3991 Lakewood Ave. I work at the state legislature and have also a law firm. I'm also chair of the Township Park Board. So it's mostly to the overall meeting, not the motion itself, if that's okay.
That's fine.
But first, I just want to thank those who prepared this presentation for your work for the town. Secondly, however, though, I do need to express my disappointment in the way this meeting has been structured and planned. The budget of the town is very important to me, both due to my role as park board chair, but also due to my family and children who I have chosen to raise here. We are in some of the most dangerous days of this global pandemic with community spread off the charts. My children are in part-time child care, and I am committed to keeping any exposure to our family to an absolute minimum to protect their classmates and their teachers. I've also already lost family members to this virus, so I take it very seriously. The fact that I'm excluded from voting on our annual budget, especially as a commission chair, is unacceptable to me, and I'm disheartened that better accommodations were not made for residents of our town to participate properly. I've been giving no convincing evidence that remote participants could not be allowed to vote. I have received some statutory citations, but none of them speak to voting being contingent upon in-person attendance. So I hope in the future the town board and the administration will consider greater accommodations for our residents and that they foster and encourage participation in important meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena.
Want me to address that?
Yeah, township attorney will address that. There you go.
Well, I understand the position. Unfortunately, the statute is clear, and I'm speaking about statute 365.57. The second sentence of that statute reads as follows. A town resident who is qualified to vote at a general election may vote at the town's meeting. You have to be physically present under that statutory language. It's unfortunate that's the way the statute reads. I agree that, given the situation, allowing voting by remote would have been better, but the statute does not allow for that. It requires a physical presence at the meeting.
Okay.
You know, and I
Can
think
I
something the
address that?
statute should, I think the legislature should look at that point. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I feel like that's very strict interpretation of the word at, but the statute, statute 13D.021 allows for meetings by telephone or other electronic means, if deemed necessary due to health pandemic or emergency declared under Chapter 12. So, thank you.
That's correct. That's the way 13D reads. However, that statute also doesn't allow for citizens to vote under that statute. It's simply 13D is the open meeting statute that simply allows for participation. It doesn't deal with voting. The only statute that deals with voting is 365.57. And unfortunately, that has created that, as I interpret the statute, requires physical presence at the meeting. I understand what you're saying about 13D. That's what it reads, but that's only allows for participation from the standpoint of listening and possibly commenting, but it doesn't talk about voting at all.
Anybody else on the phone have an observation or a question?
This is Eric Josephson, 5445 Williams Avenue, also a park board member, and also quite honestly really disappointed in that super strict interpretation. I understand where you're coming from, but take that one word at and say that therefore your physical presence is required when the statute doesn't say that, and to not explain it, and for the township board to make a decision back on 11/20 and not communicate it widely to the organization, to the wider residents, is honestly just sad. I mean, we have 14 people in that room deciding the budget on for the entire township, and we're talking over $4 million at stake here, and all of our services that you guys provide. Yes, you can't force people to come to the meeting, and yes, turnout has been historically low, but you have potentially several more people who have now on the phone are now disenfranchised by your very strict interpretation that wasn't communicated out to anyone. So not only are you going to stand by and say at means at and therefore it's physical presence, you also didn't communicate that. You cited the entire statute in one Facebook post about it and then didn't provide calling information either. So even if you actually wanted participation of people to be able to stand up and communicate what they say, even if you're not going to allow them to vote, you didn't make that widely available either. This is just an utter failing of direct democracy here. Like, come on. Get that word out there and actually let people attend the meeting. And if you are going to stand there and say at means at, then say that out loud to everyone so they can hear you instead of hiding behind the entire statute, not explaining yourself, and not making that phone number available unless people really push back to get it. It's not how this should be working. That's all I have to say.
Okay, anybody else on the phone have a comment or observation or question? Okay, I think that's it.
Any further discussion from those in the audience?
Trent Bernstein, 2580 Randy Avenue, and I'm here at the meeting. I was just wondering, you take a look at that, and he's asking a question about lowering the tax levy. I don't want to mix too many things, but as I look at the rolling forward here from the projected for 2020, there seems like a $700,000 excess at the end of the year, which seems to be coming from this miscellaneous line of about 990-some thousand. Is there some room there? Was there thought to say we can take that excess and apply it towards this year to reduce either tax levy or something of that nature?
The reason that is in miscellaneous is that is our COVID grant money that we got from the federal government. Right now, as it stands, that is going away as the federal government tries to balance their budget. There is some talk of maybe doing some other aids or continuing some type of aids to the states, counties, cities, townships, but right now they don't have any agreement. That's a shock. So that aid is going to go away. If you use your reserves to balance your budget, eventually those reserves are gone, and then you've got to increase your budget doubly because you not only have to make up for inflation and any other cost increases that you may have, but you also got to make up for that deficit or the reserves you no longer have. In the past, we've put those reserves towards our capital improvements so that when we do road improvement projects and we come down to assessing and levying for those projects, we have money available to lower that portion of the levy, which we have done not only last year, but we did it, when I say last year, I'm talking 2020, but we also did it for the 2021.
Trent Bernstein again, 2580 Randy Avenue. I fully understand it's one-time dollars, and I get that where you can't build your budget for the following year, figuring you may get one-time dollars again because you're not going to, and I fully accept that. But in truth, it is one-time money that would be available, and I see the reserve going up by that amount. I don't think we're depleting the reserve. I think we're keeping it pretty much level at the $2 million, so I still would ask, was there consideration to say, go ahead and apply that, lower the levy, help the township residents out for this year, realizing it's one-time money? I know that.
I'll say no, we have not considered that, mainly because, as I said, we've been putting it towards our road improvement projects and using it that way to keep the levy low in future years and make up for the portions that we can assess.
Mike Downing again. I'd like to congratulate the gentleman for looking into the details of the budget. I was not aware of that one-time grant to the township. It basically, if you were to make a motion to reduce the $4.2 some odd million budget by a corresponding amount and keeping some in reserves, I'd be very happy to second that motion.
We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Any other comments to, hold on just a second. Do we have any other comments as it pertains directly to this motion and second for the proposed budget and levy, or levy, I should say? Okay.
Again, Mike Downing, for the reasons I articulated initially and for this gentleman behind me, I will be voting against it, and I support people voting against this $4.2 million budget.
Any other comments or questions?
Any further discussion? We are ready to vote.
We have a motion on the floor if you do vote on.
Yes.
The motion that was made by the gentleman in the back.
No. There was no motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, it sounds like, I thought it was a motion, I apologize.
We're on the initial motion and second right now for the proposed levy.
All right, call for the vote. All those in favor, raise their hand.
We have 7 in favor.
All those opposed, raise your hand.
We have 2 opposed.
We have 7 in favor, 2 opposed. The motion carries. The next item is number 8, the motion to recommend the 2021 general fund budget proposed at $4,858,725. Is there a motion for a recommendation on that?
Move to recommend the budget for 2021 as proposed.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I'll move to recommend.
You want to recommend? All right, there's a motion to recommend the, as written, the 2021 general fund budget proposed at $4,858,725. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second. Is there discussion?
It would be nice to know what the impact of, like the funds, I mean, he wants to cut, and I get that, I mean, I applaud that. But sometimes, when that happens, it causes a long-term problem. And I feel like I'm not dealing with all the information, and I guess I'd like to have more information. Because you don't want to get your tongue cut short, because then they just come back around and come get you again. So I mean, it's like, I just feel like I haven't got the full picture.
I'll take a kind of a stab at what you're saying. Yes, as I said, a big reason for the levy increases is our infrastructure improvements, our road improvements, our park improvements, the equipment replacements and so forth. If we don't levy to where we should, and quite frankly, the equipment fund, we're not funding completely right now. At the rate we're funding it right now, it's going to be out of cash in 2022. The infrastructure, as I said, we've got, we're only in the 3rd year of a 10-year plan to redo every single street in the township. And we're trying to rebuild those with basically mill and overlays instead of complete reconstructions, which are probably about half the cost. And if we run out of, because we can't assess them at 100%, if we were to run out of reserves, and the only way we'd then be able to do that is to totally issue debt for those, and then we'd have to levy to pay that debt off. So long term, yes, it would have a negative effect on your property taxes or the infrastructure of the township.
Mr. Moderator, if I may,
Yes.
the other part, or the other piece that you're missing.
Probably want to go to a mic.
Oh. Okay. The other part that you are missing, Beth, is that we are not playing on a level playing field with the cities and counties that surround us. We don't receive LGA. And a lot of that funding would be going towards this infrastructure work. In fact, I could probably see our board making the decision to put it all there. Just to give you an idea, right next door, White Bear Lake City gets almost $2.5 million in LGA. And what did we get this last year, Tom?
$14.
$14. So we're,
Well, I'm glad you said that,
Yeah.
because that's something I was aware of.
okay. Now everybody is. Thank you.
That means Roger Chamberlain gets a phone call.
Yeah.
Yes. Comment?
Trent Bernstein, 2580 Randy Avenue. I fully appreciate the comments, but a little bit speaking to what she said, then there needs to be more transparency, okay? Because the numbers talk, all right? So I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but when you talk about, well, we want to make sure we have a little bit for this, or we put some of that towards that project, then you have to help us understand that,
because as I look at the numbers as they are, I look at there's excess, and that excess needs to go somewhere. So I'm just encouraging for future conversations to have that more of an open dialogue. The LGA is fine, but it's the parameters we live under. It doesn't mean that somehow we need to have this set of dollars somewhere that we can access. We either need to see what those are and what your intent of that is. Talking about the excess, if you intend to use that for something, then go ahead and state it in your presentation so it's not that difficult for us to put it all together.
Thank you.
I agree with you, and one of my goals is to put together a long-range financial plan for the township. I've been slow. When I get time, I work on it. Unfortunately, the extent of my work has basically been more on, or I guess what I've accomplished with the long-range financial plan is more with our utility rates. As you've seen those spreadsheets that I've done that project out 5-6 years on our utility rates and what it does to those funds and how the improvements affect it and everything else. I'd like to eventually do that with all the town's funds, trying to factor in some inflation and so forth to see what the levy is going to be, because as I said, as we're doing all these infrastructure improvements, if we're issuing debt because we don't have the reserves to pay for those infrastructure, I want to see what that is going to do to our levy, and so that the board can make better informed decisions and the staff kind of knows too what's going out. As I said, I've done it with the utility funds a little bit with doing the rates. I've started doing it with the equipment funds, and as I said, right now at the rate we're funding our equipment funds and with the equipment that we have planned, we're out of money in that fund in 2022. But I also need to do it with our improvement funds and some of these other funds to really get a good handle on it, and unfortunately it takes time and I haven't had it so far.
Sure.
It's because we're a township, we don't have to share in some of these funds, correct?
Exactly.
Yep.
So at this, Beth Artner, 5414 Belleville Boulevard East. So it's kind of, these guys are involved, which is great, but we need to start pushing, right? Roger Chamberlain has really done kind of nothing for us. I know we've had conversations with him, but shouldn't we be pushing? Shouldn't he be getting phone calls? Because I don't see him working real hard.
We've had 2 direct meetings with our legislators at the state capitol regarding this, and we left off at the end of February last year. We left off at the state capitol at the end of February last year, and something else came along, which they're preoccupied with now. Our intent is to keep pushing for LGA.
But the constituents should probably be bitching.
Agreed. They should be Beth, they should be articulating their position.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other discussion? Phone people?
Phone folks, do we have any other questions or observations to make?
This is Justin Stofran in White Bear Township, and I just want to mention real quick, because I have spent a chunk of my career working on local government aid and know the formula pretty well. I would caution the township spending a lot of time trying to get itself on the LGA formula, because even if it was, at least the last time I ran the numbers, it would not receive LGA like a lot of other suburban communities, and it's going to be a big enough fight trying to even get the town on the formula, given that the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, the Small Cities Association, the League of Minnesota Cities would likely all be opposed to a move like that. So I just throw out that that caution based on my experiences. So.
Thank you.
And just add to that, it's not only the LGA that we don't get, we do not get any municipal aid, which is the gas tax money that all of township residents pay when they fill up their cars that can be used for, that are supposed to go towards the infrastructure replacement and so forth. When you add that to White Bear Lake's LGA, they're probably getting more than $4 million in both municipal aid for road improvements and then the LGA. The other, it's kind of a double-edged sword too when you do get LGA, because when the state has a shortfall in their budget, one of the first things they usually cut is LGA, where with the municipal state aid, that is a constitutional statute that they have to, as to how much they can collect and then how much and how it's distributed to the cities. So that's a much more protected, I don't want to call it a revenue source, because like I say, it is restricted towards road maintenance and then road replacement, but it is another revenue source that a lot of the cities around us get that we do not get, and that the state can't cut when they have a budget shortfall.
Anything else? Okay. That's phone.
Any further discussion? We've got the motion on the floor, we have a second, we've had the discussion. I call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye, or raise your hands.
8.
We have eight votes in favor. Those opposed?
Nada.
No votes opposed. Motion carries. All right. Number 9, schedule the date, time, and place of the 2021 special town meeting. Recommendation is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, 7 p.m. here at Heritage Hall with an alternate date. Is there a motion for that schedule?
So moved.
We have a motion for that schedule. Is there a second? We have a second, first and a second. Is there discussion on the date of the meeting? Not hearing any. I call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, those opposed? The motion carries. It must be eight or so in favor, no objections. Now, number 10, other business. This is not a board meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting, so we can't have official action, but people here or on the phone can make comments of something, anything that they would like the board to take under advisement. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Anyone on the phone that would like to speak?
Anyone on the phone would like to make other business comments? Doesn't sound like it, sir.
I don't hear any. So we'll go on to the final thing, which is adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:15
So
or
moved.
so forth, so on, close? There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, vote with your feet. We'll see you later. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Motion
Moderator.
carried.